everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and as you can tell, I've got a different haircut for this particular one, and that's because we're about to go shoot The Love Spell, which by the time that this actually airs, it should already have been shot and done and everything. But since this is done a little bit earlier, recorded earlier, this is the haircut you get. So with me, I've got my awesome special guest here, James L. Edwards, who is a filmmaker and actor, and he's been in the business far longer than I've been. And he has been, basically doing indie films since you were what, 10 or
12? Yeah,
12.
yeah, since 85. I'm dating myself, but yeah, since about 1985.
That's crazy. So since the 80s, he's been doing indie films. And so now I had to get him on 31 Days of Indie Horror. And I picked a movie that I'll just tell you guys that when I sent him the movie to watch, my favorite response came in as Jesus, what did I sign up for? Because I love it when people say that.
I got a bone to pick with you on that, as a matter of fact, because as you remember, I used to be a review writer for alternative cinema. Mm-hmm. And I kind of had a history of, I kind of had a tendency of trying to be like a Howard Stern, like shock jock for reviews and talk mad shit about hundreds of people's movies. And I kind of consider myself a reformed asshole. Mm-hmm. And you're just bringing me right back in by making me watch Alien Hunger. So thank you for that, Jonathan. I really appreciate it.
I know we're bringing you back. Indie Film Cafe will have you on, and we had you on for Indie Film Cafe Spotlight, and you said some really, really good stuff about indie filmmaking on that. So if everybody wants to go check that out, it's like episode 5, I believe, of second season, and we really appreciated having you on there. You, me, and Paul did this amazing thing. But here in this episode, I picked a movie, and honestly it was the luck of the draw, because I was just like kind of looking up horror on Tubi and trying to find something that I hadn't watched yet or whatever, or I didn't even know anything about. And we've had on Indie Film Cafe this season, we've had 2 other Alien movies. Alien Prophecy, which was on Tubi. I don't know if it still is or not. And Alien Beasts, which is, that one's rough.
Is it rough? See, I haven't seen either of those. So
yeah. So Alien Beasts was rough, and Alien Prophecy was pretty rough too. And this, I don't know what it is about movies called Alien something. Alien versus Hunter we've done, and that was pretty rough. I mean, if you call something alien and you're independent, you have a bad chance right there.
And that's the thing. Realistically, I'm probably not a great judge for this movie anyway, simply because of that. I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I mean, like, to give you an example, when you told me about the movie and you had said Richard Hatch was in it, I assumed it was the guy from Survivor. And I'm like, why the fuck do I want to watch a movie with Richard Hatch? And then I later found out, oh no, this guy did some sci-fi stuff and I'm just not aware of him. So
yeah, he did Battlestar Galactica, which there was a reference in it, which they were talking about Battlestar Galactica, and then he mentions his character in it to the guy and everything. So there was some like little, and we'll get into that. But we'll definitely get into a lot of that stuff. But basically, I picked this because maybe there was a little bit like when I was watching, and I was like thinking of Polymorph, which was a movie you did. And everything. And it does sort of have some similarities to Polymorph in a way. Like I
can see that. I mean, I have no clue what the budget was on this movie. I have to assume it costs a little more than I thought it would, simply because of the fact of some of the cast. But it still suffers from the same thing that Polymorph does, where it's like overzealous digital effects. Where it's like some of the effects aren't bad, but some of them, like I remember there's one scene specifically right at the beginning where the alien thing is coming from is going to attack this young couple in a tent, and it looks like a big giant CGI aluminum foil ball, and I'm like, oh shit. So
I think that's when you send me the thing saying, Jesus, what did I sign up for?
Right, exactly.
Because
Yeah, literally 5 minutes into the movie, and I'm like, ugh. Now keep in mind, polymorphs know better in the sense that our spaceship had literally like Atari 2600 graphics, but still, it's like I have to assume they had more money to work with than we did. So that's the
right.
excuse I'm going with anyway.
Well, yeah, they had a little bit more money than you probably, and they
Right,
had people like Vernon Wells and Richard Hatch, and
right.
I think there's a couple other people who've done a bunch of stuff that
Hmm.
that was it was not it was nice to see that,
Yeah.
because at least it kind of brought a little bit of professionalism, but it kind of sucks when you have somebody like Vernon Wells who's a really like him from fucking Road Warrior, and weird.
Well, I was going to say that is one of the standouts of this movie. I'll watch anything with Vernon Wells in it. I think he's phenomenal. I think he's fascinating to watch. So that really helped me push along. I will say I couldn't get past Richard Hatch in this only because of that. For some reason, he reminds me of is it Neil Breen or Neil Bren? I always
Neil Breen.
Neil Breen. Yeah, yeah. Every time he showed up on screen, which is most of the movie, it's like all I could think of was Neil Breen. So it's like it was very distracting.
Well, like his look, or
His look and some of his mannerisms, I'm like watching him going.
I
I kept
honestly,
expecting him to throw. I kept expecting him to throw a whole bunch of computers off a desk and nail a chick that was 3 times too hot for him. So
yeah, well, it's funny that you say that because I think Neil Breen would have done a better job. Not saying Richard Hatch is a terrible actor. He was pretty good, but it's just his performance was sort of mediocre in a way. Like for me, like I think Vernon gave it a little bit more, and kind of like you could tell he enjoyed it a little bit more.
right,
But unfortunately, like I do believe that Richard Hatch died. Like
shortly
I
after
think
the,
like
I
partly
think even
after
before
this.
the movie was released, wasn't I thought
Right.
he died during. If I read correctly, he died during post production of the film.
Oh wow. This movie killed him.
Yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say maybe he saw a rough cut. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, oh, his heart just stopped. I don't know. But it's sort of sad that he passed away, and that and it's kind of sad that this is like one of his last movies, like this
This is
isn't
his legacy. Yeah.
yeah, this isn't really what he should be remembered for. But
Right.
it and I'm saying this, I mean, I'm not saying like this in a mean, nasty way, like, because look, you get a movie together, you go out and you make it, you cut something together, and maybe things don't go the way you hope or you planned, or
Right. We've all been there. Let's put it that way. We've all been there. And I'm not saying that this movie is a complete piece of shit. There's some decent production value in it. Like I said, I'll watch anything with Vernon in it. There was some fun stuff in it. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it was necessarily. I think the dialogue was very stilted, but I don't think the story was bad. I mean, there were some definite there, but overall, me not being a sci-fi fan, and the fact that I thought a lot of the performances were lacking, it wasn't a great experience. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I was also thinking when I was doing it, I was like, oh man, is this technically like 31 days of indie horror, and I think it really is sort of like it definitely has a lot of horror aspects. Like if it weren't aliens, this would have came off like a cannibal movie or something,
Right? Yeah, I
or
could see that.
whatever. If it weren't aliens, but the aliens, I mean, I didn't even understand half the alien stuff. Like I didn't understand why they were morphing into humans after eating them,
Right.
and they were trying to explain it, and I'm like, okay, how do you know this? Like,
Well, and that's the thing. It's like it was the. It's one of those things where okay, we don't have the budget for actual alien suits. So what do we do? And it's like, well, you can't really do that in the way that they did. There were a lot of things in the script I noticed like that too. Like one of the things that bummed me out the most, and again, this is in the first 5 minutes. I think this was shortly after I contacted you. The girl and the guy in the tent. Okay, it's like we got the guy in the tent. I thought for sure. I guess he's an actor by the name of Ben Whitehair. I actually thought it was Ryder Strong from Boy Meets World and Cabin Fever
mhm.
under a fake name because he was embarrassed. He looks just like him. And there's a scene where he and Mason Michaels, the girl in the tent, are making out, and there's a line in there where she starts to take off her or he's trying to, he takes off her top, and the next thing you know, she's like, oh, it's cold, and he's like, oh, well, let's get under the blankets. Like, that's just that basically tells me, hey, this actress wasn't willing to show off her sweater meat, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw this throwaway line in here to make sure that we have to look at us. We have to look at two people in a sleeping bag for the next 3 minutes. You know, so
Yep. Nope. That's exactly the thought that I had when I was watching that too, which, I don't know if that's what everybody has. Like we're independent filmmakers. So, and writers, so we look at that and we go, okay, they probably threw that in there as a
Right.
line. I don't know if most people that watch these movies go, that watch Tubi or whatever that aren't in the film business and they're just there to watch enjoy a indie horror film or whatever.
Right.
If they even think that way, or if they're just like, oh, okay, well, she's going under the covers, whatever. But yeah, and that kind of pisses me off. Like, if you're gonna do a scene like that, like, because like I wouldn't put a scene where two people are in a tent and have it where it looks like they're gonna do something if they don't, it's kind of a tease that.
Right.
Because I bet at one point you were probably like thinking, oh, there's gonna be no nudity in this movie then. Like, or
that's
whatever.
exactly what I thought. And again, nudity doesn't necessarily sell the movie, but but at the same token, if you set up the plot point for it, it's like it's especially with a movie like this, it kind of helps. I'll be honest with you, it really does. So
it really does, because like if you're already setting that up and you're kind of you're expecting it, then it's kind of like sort of not just a letdown, but I mean, she was gorgeous. Like, she looked good. It would have, but then again, she probably had a no nudity clause or, whatever.
Right.
So, she wasn't going to do it. And, or maybe it gets to that point where you never know, but there are some times where the person says she'll do it and then,
Well, and again, I guess the argument there is that's fine. I'm not expecting nudity in this, but don't set it up for it.
Exactly.
They could have just as easily had them making out in the tent, and then, oh, what's that noise? What's that? What's this? It's like there was no reason to be like, oh, we're gonna get her shirt off. No, we're not. It's like it's Blue Ball City. So
yeah. So note to indie filmmakers: if you're gonna go one way, go all the way. If you're not gonna go it, just don't do it.
Right,
or whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so we see like the thing kill them and everything. Sort of. We see like something killing them. We don't get to actually see the creature, but I was laughing my ass off when I first saw the creature, because he was like, it was when Vernon and the first time I remember, like, particularly, was Vernon and Richard Hatcher see the thing like flying, and he's wearing human clothes.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, at least and even when you see him, I think the first time you see him is right before that. You see a quick glimpse of him before he attacks the tent, and it's obvious CG. And again, this is the argument that I have with using a lot of digital effects in your movie. With the budgets, even in multi-million-dollar productions, the best CG I've ever seen still looks like a cut screen from a video game. It's always one of those situations where that almost looks real. That being said, with the budgets that we're working on, or even whatever they had for this, it's like you can't really pull this off successfully. It's near impossible to do. I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's near impossible. And obviously, what the director and writer had in mind for this, the digital artists it was beyond their capabilities, or at least beyond their capabilities with the finances that they had.
No, definitely. So I heard something. It sounded like was it a bike, motorbikes or something, or cars or something in the background. It made me think of the bikers from this movie. And I was thinking, because we mentioned Vernon, we mentioned Richard, but we forgot to mention R.A. Mahilihoff, who played Leatherface in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. and he was in it as like the big biker. I forgot his name. It wasn't Snake. It was the other one.
No,
Uh,
no, I think it was Snake, wasn't it?
was it? I don't think it was Snake. Snake was the other guy that got
Okay.
killed.
I mean, it was obvious they could get RA for like a 1 day payday shoot, where it's like, hey, can you can you do this movie for a grand? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. So I like to think that his payoff was that at least he got to bang 2 of the 3 strippers that played the biker girls, but I don't know, I wasn't there. So
Yeah, no, maybe. I would imagine that maybe he would. Especially if he told them that he was a Leatherface. I'm sure they were like, "Oh my God, you're famous."
right.
You know, those girls seem so. I mean, like, no offense to them as people, but their characters seemed so dumb that it just. I felt kind of sorry for them being in this
Well, again,
movie.
it's a matter of casting. I realize that you want to get, especially women, you want to get attractive women in your movies. The problem is it was very, it's like, did these bikers just happen to drive past like like a bikini car wash, and it's like, oh, hey, we're going on a cross country road trip, hop on. They didn't seem like the type of bikers that would be hanging out with these male bikers. Just I
Right.
don't know, I didn't get it.
No, not at all. And yeah, it seemed kind of weird. Like it seemed like a weird kind of group of people,
Mhm.
that were together. Oddball group.
Which
Um,
honestly, that's kind of part of the course, because if you notice, what was it? He's mostly known as a stuntman, but George Fishman, who was part of the militia, he's like desperately doing his Buford T. Justice impersonation through the little bit of time that he's on there. But even then, it's like every character we're running into, it was almost like a stage play. Everybody was so kind of larger than life and exaggerated.
oh yeah, everybody was exaggerated. Everything was exaggerated for this film.
Right.
Like it seemed, and at first, like, okay, so I was watching it and I watched it over 3 days, right? Like it took me 3 days to finish it.
Right.
Not saying it was bad. It's just I've been busy. So,
Right. I get that. I've been
and I was
same way.
almost trying to do it earlier so that I wouldn't have to like force myself to watch, or whatever. Have to, set time aside today to watch it.
Right.
But I did. I ended up like finishing it up today, and I absolutely um while watching it all 3 of the different days, like sort of like the beginning of it seemed to be more like about I guess the setup of
Right.
these people and how I guess Richard Hatch's character knows everybody. Like he knows Ari's character, Big Frank. He knows, like it was strange. It was like, how does he know these bikers? Like, how is he friends with these
Mhm.
guys? Like, I mean, do they go and hang out in the woods all the time? Is this like their thing? I mean, I don't
Right.
know. And then later there's or that one guy that basically is that teen kid who's just like, is your daughter home and blah blah
Right.
blah. By the way, he had the biggest fucking like cringiest scene. I was like, don't do it, kid, don't say it. And
I
he
know
was like,
the one you're
stop.
thinking of.
What?
I know the one you're thinking of.
I know.
Yeah.
I was like, don't talk, don't tell her that you're gonna be don't give her the last night on earth speech. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And he did. He actually literally said it'll be the last night on should be the last night on earth. Do you want to die a virgin? And then Richard Hatch is there and blah blah blah.
Right.
Then what I also noticed is there's a lot of fucking jokes that just feel forced into the
Um,
script.
See, that's the problem with and again, I don't even necessarily blame them for that. That's the problem with inserting comedy. Sometimes jokes in your script that you think are going to land don't, and sometimes you think it's just a throwaway line. Fucking kill comedy. I mean, comedy's tough. So them
I
wanting to insert that in, I get it.
Well, I get it, but I feel like there was too much,
I can see
which
that.
look,
I can definitely
I'm
see
a
that.
person who loves comedy in my horror. I do. If it's comedy horror or if it's, random throughout,
Right.
I'm okay with it. But like it just felt like it was way too random. Like there were, especially Richard Hatch and Vernon together. It was, I almost felt, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I almost felt like those two rewrote some of the lines so they could joke on each other, and it didn't feel like, like when he was like, haha, that's your new son-in-law or something like that. I'm like, that's, was that supposed to be funny? Like,
Right, exactly. No,
he's
I
like
get that.
jabbing at him, but like I didn't really find it that fun. I don't know.
Mhm.
I'm very weird about my comedy, like in the horror, because like
Right.
I get it, because I get criticized for putting comedy in my horror,
Oh yeah.
stuff all the time. Some people don't think it's right, and I mean, you know, sometimes I think it's the best thing for the movie because I don't like being bored.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll that with that in particular, I'll give them a pass because I get it. I get that, but I do understand where you're coming from on that. Definitely. I was more not necessarily surprised, but confused because like when we're first introduced to I forget her name, but the what was it? Sarah Hennessy's character. The what was it? The niece that's coming to
Oh
visit.
yeah.
It's like it's painfully obvious English is her second language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She has a very thick accent, except for when we're introduced to her. She speak. I mean, the entire scene. I didn't notice the accent
I
until
didn't
they get to,
either.
but yet that's the only time it's ever addressed. Where he's like, he's like picked up a bit of the accent of the locals, right? And she's like, well, what would you? This is what happens when you stay. And I started doing. I literally looked into it because I'm like, I didn't catch an accent, and then later in the film, it's like it's almost like it became heavier throughout the film. And what I didn't realize is this actress who I guess is credited here as what is it, Diem Errol, was born in Australia to Turkish parents, which for some reason my puny brain could not comprehend that. I just was like, it was very, very bizarre for me. But yeah, I just I didn't understand why. It's like they were. I knew why they were throwing the line in, but it's like the one scene where the accent is nowhere to be found. That's when he decides to make reference to that. It's like,
Right. Well, I think maybe also a little bit of that had to do with like later you could definitely tell the accent. So maybe he was saying something, they're saying something like they shot it later to try to cover their tracks of like,
right,
explaining that she's from somewhere. But you're right. Like the first time you hear it and everything, she sounded normal. She didn't seem like she whatever. And then later you can definitely tell she had an accent,
right,
and which is fine. I mean, whatever. It sort of didn't make sense that she was a relative unless like, I mean, unless like there, I would have liked a little bit more backstory on like who their relationship, because
but in all fairness, that's just nitpicky. Honestly, it's like my complaint that the one scene where Lisa Cullen's character Cassie, the daughter,
mm,
mentions that the TV's out and she's fucking with the TV, and it's a TV. It's like one of those big 6,000 pound bulk widescreen TVs that should have been thrown out 15 years ago. It's like, well, of course the TV's fucking out. You should have replaced this piece of crap years ago.
right. It's always funny. Paul, whenever I watch a movie with Paul always notices the stuff in the background or notices, the wallpaper or whatever in the houses and stuff. I never noticed that shit. I don't know
Right.
why. I'm so oblivious to that shit. It just doesn't, even in my own, like, whatever, I don't, you know, I don't know. That's just not my thing.
Right.
But I'm always happy to hear him kind of bitch and complain about it, because it's sort of like, oh, okay, then I can notice it, then I'm like,
Right. Oh,
oh, okay, I
exactly.
see it now, but I'm never, and I didn't notice the TV. I don't remember, like, I barely remember the TV situation,
It was
but
huge. It was bigger than she was. So,
yeah, yeah, a lot of those times, they need to like, well, they probably got an old house, and they used an
right.
old house that they used whatever old TV that they had.
I get it. It's just me being nitpicky, but I remember it standing out like a sore thumb. Mhm.
So let's see. So basically, the stunts were pretty damn cool. I would
Well,
say that, like,
the stunts would have to be cool because a lot. The director was known for a stuntman, wasn't he?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
like,
no complaints about the stunts. Like I said, I liked a lot of the cast. I think the script could have used a second draft or a third or fourth. Um, but in general, I mean, I can't even necessarily say I hated this movie. It's just not something I'd ever watch again.
Right.
You know,
No, I agree 100%.
probably
It's
not
not.
something I would have watched in the first place had you not thrown it at me. So,
I didn't even realize he did this stuff. Oh, he did stunts. Okay. All
oh yeah,
right.
yeah. That's from what I looked at. That's mostly what he was known for. I mean, he's directed a handful of other films, but mostly his bread and butter was as a stuntman.
Yeah, I was looking at it as
Pretty much
like,
like George Fishman was in there as well because he's been doing stunts since the '60s. So
yeah. Wow, that's really cool. So well, that's always good. I always like seeing that. I always like seeing
mhm.
stunt guys or cinematographers or somebody else
Right.
directing. I'm actually one of those people that like love when actors direct, which I forgot who it was. There's somebody who argued with me about that. Like was like, I hate when actors direct. Actors should stay acting and director, right? And I'm like, I think if they feel like they want to direct, like more power
I've
to
never
them.
understood that argument, to be perfectly honest, because I mean, a perfect example. I love seeing directors show up in small roles in movies.
Mhm.
I love seeing like David Cronenberg or John Carpenter or any director show up in a movie, even if it's a tiny little scene.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the biggest arguments for director being cast as an actor is Cronenberg in Nightbreed. He's one of the best things to see in that movie.
Right. And that's always interesting to see who pops up and who acts as a director and how good they
Yeah.
are.
And another thing, uh, I completely understand the thought process of a director, specifically, or I'm sorry, of an actor, specifically an actor who's also a writer,
Mhm.
wanting to direct. Because, like in my case with my movies, I don't really technically consider myself a director. I'm a control freak, and I want to play roles that I want to play, and I want to have my screenplays put together as close to my vision as possible. So I mean, this is part of the reason that I don't direct other people's writing, because I mean, I'm just in it for my own personal arrogant self.
No, and that's totally understandable because it's one of those things where but also you've talked about how you don't really like directing as much
It's
anyway,
not that
right?
I don't like it. I do enjoy it. It's just I'm going to be honest with you. In a lot of ways, it's a huge fucking headache, in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that it's like, if I play a role in a movie, I can be on the set for a couple of days. I go home. I feverishly check the reviews for my name, and then I'm done with it.
Right.
As a writer, it's a little different because, yeah, that's going to be a little more personal. As a director, you live with that movie for the rest of your life, especially a director who self-distributes his own films. That's always going to be there. So it's a little more personal. And in some ways, that's incredibly rewarding. And in some ways, it's a fucking headache. It really is. So,
No, and I agree because what is it? When you look at this movie, you could tell there was passion
oh,
behind
yeah.
it. There's
Mhm.
definitely passion.
I
Um,
think it was, I think they're what was it? What they were able to actually pull off definitely was not. I think they probably needed a bigger budget for what they needed to pull off.
yeah.
I really do. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I've seen far, 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 far worse. So
Well, and it gets to a thing where you're right. If they had a huge Hollywood type budget, this movie could have been amazing. However, if they had a huge Hollywood type budget, this
no, there's no
script
way.
would have
Yeah,
been made in like they would have had to do countless rewrites to make this like a Hollywood thing because
right,
the writing isn't there. You know what I mean? As far as Hollywood standards. So this is
right.
definitely an independent film, but so it's really hard sometimes when
Mm,
you have a indie film that should be like maybe even like Asylum budget, you know which I
right.
think is more than what this is. Like Asylum usually 200 grand or something, or
Right.
whatever, or more, maybe 100 grand, but still, that's probably more. We kind of guessed earlier that this would probably be about 40 to 50 grand that they
But
maybe
even in all honesty, with that, I'm really bad at that game. I have no clue. I mean, for all I know, this movie could have cost 30,000, or this movie could have cost 100,000. I have no clue.
No.
So,
Well, also you have to think about it though. In order to get RA and Richard Hatch and Vernon in your movie, you have to go SAG. So
not necessarily. Not necessarily. A
I
lot
don't.
of these, yeah, a lot of these guys will end up working non-SAG on projects.
Well, RA
So
won't. And I know that because this was back in 2000. I mean, this was 2014, 2013 when I met him. I asked him, I said something to him like, I'd love to get you in a project. And he said, is it SAG? And I said, not at the moment. And he goes, he was like, well, once it gets SAG, let me know, because I can't work on anything that's not SAG. Now,
okay,
that was 2013. If he did this in 2017, I think that's what it was, right? 2016, 17, something like that, that it was actually shot,
right,
that it might have been, or it might have been that somehow union issues where he was able to still do, you know what I mean? I don't know.
right,
All I know is those actors, and him. So that's the only thing I can imagine. If it's SAG, that means the budget went up more, because that
right.
means
Well,
you
I
have to,
definitely don't think this was SAG. So,
yeah. And they had a lot of cast members who talked, and SAG makes you pay, like every actor who talks has to get the minimum or whatever, at least,
right.
or whatever. So I mean, that's just added budget and everything like that. But I mean, it's fair,
And realistically, had it been a SAG production, I don't think ITN would have gotten their hands on it. Maybe I'm being naive with that. I don't think it would have happened. So,
I don't know.
just because they're kind of a smaller label, so I don't think they would have been able to get it.
I don't know. I think some SAG projects do actually get bigger, or smaller labels too. I mean, it just depends on how much money you spend on it and how much money you think you're going to get back from it. So
Right.
I have no idea like what happened exactly. Maybe this was, maybe they couldn't get like Lionsgate or one of the other companies, and they went with ITN, who does get, your movies out there, puts it in Walmart and puts it out. It was on Tubi, which is amazing to me, because I mean, to me, that's a way to get your, get you out there, which wonderful.
Right.
And so anyway, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but I mean, that's got to be a pretty decent budget, I would imagine, at least maybe 40, but it could be 20 grand. And it could be that they only paid the big time actors and everybody else worked for free and to make this movie, happen, and either way, because a lot of people do that just to get a fucking movie done.
Right.
They'll do whatever, also to get credit and to be out there and it's out and distributed. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want it on DVD. I want to see if there's like a commentary track or something.
You want it on DVD now?
Well, no, dude, I collect everything.
You just got done saying that you'd probably never watch it again, and now
I probably would, but I would probably never watch it like itself again, but I would listen to a commentary on it, because I'm always interested to hear.
That's a sickness, right? That's a problem. I beat that problem recently. I'm gonna have to be your I'm gonna have to be your sponsor now. So,
Well, no, the thing is, I'm gonna have to keep going down that hole. I'm gonna have to keep or whatever. Because I actually, I like that. I don't know. I like watching, listening to commentary tracks on indie films, because sometimes they're more fascinating than the movie themselves. I've said this like recently on Facebook, but it's true. Sometimes I'd rather watch or listen to a commentary than actually watch the movie.
Right.
Because like sometimes the filmmakers will say something that'll go, oh shit, that's why they did that. Okay.
Right.
And so I love commentary tracks on stuff, but then again, maybe it doesn't have one. A lot of these movies are kind of bare bones,
Right,
and
exactly.
that kind of sucks.
See, this is another argument for self-distribution right here.
Because you can just put it out yourself.
Put
Yeah, that's
on
true.
whatever you want. No
Well,
restriction.
you can't really put it out in Walmart.
Oh
That's the
yes,
thing.
Krista and Brimstone are in Walmart.
They are, aren't they? Well, I mean, on the shelves on Walmart, like,
Who cares? Have you seen the shelves at Walmart? There are no indie products at Walmart
yeah,
anymore. No,
there are a ton.
nobody gives a shit. No, when was the last time an actual fan bought a movie at Walmart? Come
Me,
on.
me.
Ugh. Well,
I
then
just,
that's a problem in itself. I'm sorry. I'm not even. Whenever an indie guy says he got his movie on
yeah.
at Walmart, whenever an indie guy says he got his movie in Walmart, it doesn't impress me because I promise you, if Walmart is stacking 4 copies, chances are they're going to return 3 to the distributor. Yeah, it's that simple.
This movie might. I mean, I might be able to wait and it be at the Dollar Tree. I mean, that seems to be where a lot of these movies end up at some point, which isn't. Look, once again, that's getting your movie out there. Like, that's really what the distribution is about, because a lot of people take movies, that are, like, a lot of people get their movies like Trauma, with no plan that they'll ever make any money back, but they just do it so that they can get the movie out there.
I'm sorry, I couldn't disagree with you more. I really couldn't, only because of the fact that, like I said, not to sound arrogant, not to sound like a prick, but I've been doing this since '85. I don't need my name out there. I don't need my movie out there for
Right.
free. It's like, realistically, it's one of those things where we self-distributed Krista and made our budget back within a year. If I'd gone with one of the distributors that wanted it, what was it? There was a really great video not long ago, and I need to post it actually on YouTube, where this guy he couldn't take the names of the films or the directors or anything, but they took basically like 1,500 indie films that were released in the first quarter of 2021, and basically took their returns from that first quarter. And out of those 1,500, only one of them, and we're talking about budgets anywhere between 2,000 to 150,000. Only one of them out of those over 1,500 made more than 10 grand. And the majority of them, you know how much they made in that first quarter through going to a distributor? $36. Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, we've reached a point with streaming where, I'm sorry, distributors just aren't that important anymore. They
Right.
really aren't.
No, I mean, and maybe things will change. I don't know, at some point, because it's gonna have to, because
Right. I mean, physical media, as much as I hate to say it, physical media is dying. That's apparent from every Best Buy and Walmart and Target you go to. It's like they don't want to fill the shelves with indie product anymore. That they want the new Dwayne the Rock Johnson movie. They want they don't care about that. And even if they did, nobody's going to buy it.
Right.
It's like, unfortunately, this is the world we live in, and because of that, like I said, I don't mean to go off on a big Frank Zappa anti-industry rant, or anti-establishment rant, but that's just my feelings. But of course, I'm still very bitter about the first 6 months of dealing with distributors with Krista. So
I totally get it. And for me, it's a cool thing to see this, out and available on Tubi and stuff.
Right.
So, being able to share this with you, because I think when I told you about Tubi, you're like, I don't have Tubi.
Yeah.
And I was like, which is funny to me, because it's just to me, Tubi has been my lifesaver, so like,
you have to keep in mind, I'm old. I
no,
want the physical media copy. I want that. No, I'm not going to get that pretty soon. Pretty soon, that's going to be all dead. So,
well, you're like one of the only. I mean, you're not one of the only ones. Like, there are people out there that I've talked to that have said,
right.
I've never heard of Tubi, and then all of a sudden I introduce them to Tubi, and they're like, I can't stop watching this now because
well,
there's
another
so
thing
much.
too is, for some reason, I couldn't. Again, I'm not the most technologically advanced person, but I couldn't get Tubi to run on my 65-inch screen, so I had to watch it on the computer. And I fucking hate watching movies on the computer.
I hate that too.
I'm already wondering if maybe part of my discomfort with this film, or my not caring for this film, was because I had to watch it on a computer screen, because I literally fucking hate that.
I wish I was closer to you when you were doing it. I could have showed you how to put it on your TV. Well, unless do you have a Roku or anything like that?
No. I
Okay.
literally I have, I'm sorry, Netflix, Hulu, and YouTube. That's about it on my TV.
If you go to like if you have your TV, you can look up apps, and Tubi
Okay.
is one of the apps. So
I
just go
I
up
will
to
have to
apps.
do that.
Yeah. And get it because like even though you don't like streaming that much, you like physical media and look, you, Paul, me, we all love physical media. Like,
Mhm.
I forgot
Is
who
there
we
a
were.
way to do Tubi, like pay for it as a premium and not have those damn commercials through the whole thing?
I think there's a way to do that.
Okay, because
You know.
that's another thing. It's like I'm not. What was it? I'm not a huge fan of that either. Which is literally his first world problems. I mean, when I was growing up, literally, if you're watching a half-hour TV show, there's going to be 10 minutes of commercials through it.
Right.
So I forgot about that with the advent of streaming. So
Right. Like I think we've kind of been so luxurious these days with like,
right,
streaming like Netflix, unless you yeah, Netflix you pay for whatever you get, you get
right,
no uh was it Hulu though? Hulu I would do and yeah, I have the lesser one. I pay for the lesser Hulu so I get have to get the stupid commercials. I remember when I was using somebody else's Hulu and I was watching it without commercials and I was like it's like,
It's like
like
discovering a whole new world. Well, now
I
one
know.
thing I will say that's nice about Hulu though is you're stuck watching the commercials for the TV shows, but literally you've got one or two commercials at the beginning of a movie, and it doesn't interrupt for the rest of the movie, which is
Right.
nice. Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly. So or yeah, they asked me to if I would take a survey or whatever, but it's like
Right.
bullshit and stuff. So I don't like because then it wants me to go I don't know. It wants me to go to these things and try to buy something or whatever. And I'm like not gonna go
Mhm.
buy anything just to get a
Right. Oh,
like that
exactly.
seems to defeat the purpose of
Mhm.
skipping these commercials. But anyway, the point was that I mean we kind of live in this very cool technology thing and having a movie like Alien Hunger where it's just at the palm of your hand. You can watch this. I could watch this on my phone. I guarantee you that would drive you even worse
Well,
than a computer.
you've actually made a very good argument during this conversation, that I hadn't thought of. It's like I'm sitting here saying that I probably would not have watched this movie on my own had it not been for Tubi and seeing it like you did. You're already saying, "Oh, I if it had a commentary, I'd buy the DVD." Right there, that's a sale. So I
Mhm.
mean, maybe there's something to what you're saying as far as getting the word out on that.
Well, yeah. I mean, and you have to understand, like, you might be that old fogey that doesn't like these things. You're all like the get off my lawn,
Right,
Tubi. But it helps these people. It helps us indie filmmakers out to because we live in a society now that is on Tubi. Or whatever,
right,
or on Amazon or Hulu or that's just the way you said it before yourself. That's the way it's going. Physical media is sort of semi-dying, and everything, and
right.
now streaming is the way. And we're kind of getting to this point in our life right now where we just gotta like we might not like it but we gotta accept it. And
Right,
I
exactly.
truly believe that because like I don't I didn't like it in the beginning. Like I mean when Netflix existed, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Then all of a sudden, Netflix killed the blockbuster star, and all of a sudden, like
Right.
all my stores that I would go to were gone, and stuff. And I was like, why? Like, you don't understand how excited I was last year when I was living in Van Nuys and there was a freaking video store that was still open. This was pre-COVID. That was open.
Right.
I got to get a membership and I could go in there. I felt like, oh my God, I'm back in the early 2000s, or whatever.
Right.
But I even asked to work there, but unfortunately they weren't weren't hiring at the time or whatever. I did send an application, but they weren't hiring at the time. But yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I was just so happy to be, there, and whatnot. But once again, it's because I think we're so, you know. But then again, I got to get Jay and Silent Bob Strike, no, reboot, which
Right.
not the greatest movie in the world, but I got to see it on DVD before it went on streaming on Amazon. So
Right.
it blew my mind that, I was able to see it before then. So physical media, I think, is the better way to go. But that's why I can't wait to own this movie. But I'm also a collector of films. So even if I don't like the movie, I'm going to keep it.
See, I went through that for years, and my problem is it was reaching a point where my life was basically the end of Indiana or of Raiders of the Lost Ark, where I went through all this trouble to find this item just to basically put it in the warehouse it'll forever be forgotten. When I started selling off my collection, I found out that literally 75% of it was still sealed. So it's like, it's just one of those things where I get it.
I was at Dollar Tree and I bought I think it was 20 something movies from there or whatever. And this lady looked at me and she was like, "What are you going to do with those?" I was like, I collect them. And then I go, and I may even watch them. Because how many of those movies I have that I just haven't seen yet. And that's another reason why we started the show, is so that, or not the show, but a lot of these different shows on, things, because we want to watch these movies that we bought from Dollar Tree or whatever and whatnot. I don't think Alien Hunger is available there, but maybe someday, maybe it won't.
You're gonna have to hit your local Dollar Tree or see if it's on Amazon. See if you can buy it from Amazon.
I think you can. I think I looked it up, and you can buy it on Amazon. Once again, I gotta look it up and find out the special features, because that to me is the thing. I want to see what people are, and whatever. So anywho, to go back to the movie, because we talked a lot about other stuff that's not the movie. The ending of that movie was a little weird. So we're gonna talk about that real quick. So
you're starting to cut out like crazy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but you're real jittery.
Okay. I think it was because I was moving the thing a little bit, the microphone. So anyway, was it the ending of the movie was a little weird, right?
It was fairly abrupt. I'll definitely say that.
Did you sort of laugh out loud when his name, the director's name, popped up? And it didn't even feel like the movie is over yet because I had 10 minutes left of the movie.
Yeah, I was a little confused on what they were doing with that, but I don't know.
But anyway, the movie sort of ends with it was sort of dumb. I did not like her running the guy over in the car. Yeah. I didn't like the her doing that, because it didn't. I'm sorry, it didn't make any sense. Nobody's gonna, not even in their wrong mind, they're gonna do that. She knew she had they needed that car, and everything. And why, if she had the thing on the car, why wouldn't she just put the brake on and have have them fly off the, it just didn't make any sense. None of that. That ending was just whacked out. I just was not a fan of how it just abruptly kind of okay, we've got the car, and then they left the guy. They left the dude. They didn't even look for him or anything. They're
yeah, we're done.
I guess he's out there somewhere. He'll be okay. Especially that girl who was all we can't leave anybody behind. All of a sudden she's leaving that guy behind.
Yeah, it's we can't leave anybody behind but him. He's fine. Just let him go.
He's fine. He's got a new foot randomly. I mean, it grew, and then I guess he was becoming that creature or something. But that didn't even make any sense. I was not a big fan of the ending. I felt like it was sort of How do we
Seemed
end
like
this
they ran
movie?
out of ideas. They ran out of steam at the end and just decided, oh, this is good enough.
Yeah, and Vernon Wells deserved more than just jumping into the thing, whatever, the spaceship or whatever pod. Which, did you know that was the original title for the movie? Was the pod?
Pod, but somebody else used it.
Oh, somebody else made a movie called The Pod.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and I guess they had to change it then to this to Alien Hunger, which I'm wondering if that was an ITN thing. If
That
he
sure sounds like an IT. I know, like I said, with dealing with distributors in the past, one of the first things they love to do is try and get you to change your title.
especially one that is in the beginning, because and this is a pet peeve of mine, but I hate it when distributors say, oh well, people need to see it in the beginning alphabetically, so
Right.
ABC,
Mm-hmm.
Alien Hunger, and I'm like thinking, nobody goes alphabetically when they're looking for movies. That
There
just
was
doesn't happen.
there was a film that I produced years ago. It was like a caught on camera Blair Witch kind of thing called June 9. And one of the distributors was wrestling to change the title to 9 June because, well, numbers will show up first even before alphabetical. So let's do that. I'm like, it didn't make any sense whatsoever.
9 June.
Mm-hmm.
Or they could have been the 9th of June, I guess.
Right.
I mean, whatever, but silly. It's just stupid. But so maybe that's what they did. Maybe they changed it to Alien Hunger because
It
A.
sure sounds like something. And the problem is, Alien Hunger is such a bland title. It
Well,
just mixes in with everything else.
once
So,
again, there's so many alien this, alien that, alien whatever. You're not going to stand out.
right,
The only reason this stood out, period, is because it was in the horror section of Tubi,
right.
and that it said Alien Hunger, and
Mhm.
I was like, we've already done Alien Beast, we did Alien Prophecy, why not Alien Hunger? And this can't be that bad, can it? And it wasn't awful. Like this wasn't.
No, I don't think it was necessarily a horrible movie. It's A, not a genre that interests me, and B, I think it overstepped its means. I think that their eyes were bigger than their stomach were on this one.
Yeah, the bit more than they could chew,
Right.
for sure. They had really cool some cool special effects, some terrible special effects,
Mm.
and stuff. I like this once again, I like the stunts. You said the guy's a stunt guy, and I looked him
Yeah,
up, and he's
I thought the stunts were really well performed, but I would have expected that.
well, I
So,
wouldn't have, because I didn't know the guy wasn't,
right. Well, yeah.
so I didn't at all expect it. So I saw, people flying down and everything, and I'm like, that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
Like that person. I mean, they couldn't CGI that shit.
Right.
I mean, and make it look real at all. So that was pretty cool that they actually had jumping scenes like that. That
Right.
I just I really liked. I honestly liked the scene where they were in the every like they were. It was the only problem I had with it was it just didn't make any sense. But it was
Mm.
like they were saying like get out of the water. Yeah, that part where there's
Yeah, yeah.
how did they
When they
know
like
they'll
that.
be in the water? Like they did not know that they could they didn't even know these things could swim,
Right.
or whatever. So they're like, get out of the water quickly. And
Mhm.
I'm like, wait, why are they freaking out? And then all of a sudden, and I'm like, okay, so they're freaking out because now randomly they're getting, it didn't happen at all
Right.
before, but now all of a sudden they're getting you know, taken down or whatever. I don't know. My least favorite character in the whole movie was the chick that just with the crazy chick,
Oh,
or
okay. Yeah.
whatever. She sort of annoyed me because she was there to annoy me, like that
Well, but
was
that's the thing. She did her job.
the
I,
actress was wonderful. Like I'm not, and the character was wonderful because she fucking pissed me off, and that was what she
right.
was supposed to do. But that, I mean, it still annoyed me,
Hmm.
and there was so much bickering
There
about
was a lot of
everything.
bickering, but I mean, again, you're going to have that in this type of film. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of people running through the woods.
Right. And we actually talked about that on Indie Film Cafe with Polymorph.
Right.
because you're in the woods. There's people arguing, they have to bicker because
Right.
they have to figure out how they're going to survive. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a by the numbers alien, hunting
Yeah,
thing.
it doesn't reinvent the wheel, but again, it would have been. I think it would have been one of those things where, with the budget that they had, they could have either had some name actors in it like they did, or had better special effects. They couldn't have both. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so,
If they could have had more money, they could have had better special effects. But to be honest, it wouldn't have. I don't think it would have mattered that much. Like it wouldn't.
no.
The story still sort of lacked, something, and the
See, I didn't
characters.
check. Did the director also write it? Let me
I
see
believe
here.
so.
Yep, yep, he sure did. Now the good news is, and just checking into his stuff now, if I can. I don't know if it's going to let me in. I was going to say the good news is, yeah, it's not letting me in. Never mind. I had a point here, but here we go. He did work on. Yeah, he's done a ton of stunt work. I mean,
Yeah,
literally
130 something.
138 credits. Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
ranging from going all the way back to. Oh, he started it out on stunts on Unsolved Mysteries.
Nice. I
He
keep
did
forgetting that.
Prehysteria.
I'm forgetting they need
Prehysteria 2. I
those.
know you love that.
What?
I said he did Prehysteria 3. I know you love that.
Oh yeah, I love Charles Band.
Mhm.
I love Full Moon. That's
He
kind
did
of
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam.
Yeah, he did Species 2, but he was uncredited. He did
Oh,
Blade.
so he's done.
He
He's
did
done
stuff.
some stuff. Some indie and
Okay. I don't
some
know all the
Hollywood.
stunts in both, but he did them. So,
Nice. Well,
so
there
there
you
you have.
go. He's that's a wonderful thing is like I love seeing that. Like I said, I love seeing stunt guys who turn into directors because that's a passion that they want to explore. And some people do it like Kevin Williamson wanted to direct, and he directed Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and he had such a terrible time with it that he decided he never wanted to direct again. So he just
Right, exactly.
doing what he loved, which is writing.
This guy's kept going. He what was it? He's got 7 director credits. Now, a couple of them are TV series and a couple of shorts. But this was the last movie he directed, from what I can tell.
Well, he's got two in development. One's called After the Harvest, and one is called Faith in the Apocalypse.
Yeah, I see Faith in the Apocalypse, but I'm not seeing anything on. What's the other one you said?
It's After the Harvest. It's it's in development. The other one I think is actually in pre-production or something. Or
Okay.
they're both in development. I think it might be the same movie, just different title. Sometimes IMDb does that where
he did American Poltergeist 3 because there were so many unanswered questions in 1 and 2. So there we go. He wrote it.
He did a movie called The Dead Undead. That sounds like a contradiction, but all right.
He was uncredited for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie for water safety.
Okay, this actually sounds really interesting. It says good vampires. I don't know what a good vampire would be. I guess like Blade,
Okay.
Which
yeah.
Right? Like one that
he was also a second unit director on American Poltergeist 3. So
well, it said The Dead Undead. This was his first directorial debut. Good vampires battle zombie vampires while trying to hide their own identity and prevent the infection from spreading. I don't know what a zombie. I've never heard of a zombie vampire before.
And he co-directed with somebody, it looks like. So I'm wondering if the original director flaked out and Eddie came through. I don't know. He was the writer. So. And Luke Goss is in it. You love Luke Goss. So,
which one's that?
Luke Goss, wasn't he in God, what was that? Oh shit, I can't remember. I'm getting old. He's done a lot of action stuff. I know that.
Okay. He did Hellboy too. He probably met him on the Blade sets.
That's what I'm guessing. Yeah. Oh, okay. Luke Goss was in Death Race 2. I think he might have even been in the first Death Race. I don't know.
Interesting. Oh, he directed Your Move. Luke Goss did,
Oh,
which he also starred in. And Your Move, I think, was a ITN film,
okay.
which I've seen at the Dollar Tree. I think I might own this movie.
Okay, we're going down a wormhole now that we neither.
Yeah,
If we keep
yeah,
this
yeah.
up,
I don't
we're
think
gonna end up
anybody
having
wants to
like
hear
a
this.
6 hour conversation.
I don't think anybody will want to hear our conversation.
Yeah, we got to
this.
stop. They could
All right.
easily do this. They could easily do this on their own. With
I know. You look up these guys and find out all the shit that they've done, because they've done a lot.
Bottom line, it wasn't my thing. That's my final take on it. It wasn't. I was not a fan of Alien Hunger, but I give them mad props for making it. That's what I'm gonna say.
So you give credit where credit's due.
I give credit where credit's due, but it's not my thing. Let's put it that way.
Well, perfect, because it's sort of not my thing either. I'm not a huge sci-fi fan myself, but I am into sci-fi horror, and this kind of had like a very Predator, kind of wannabe Predator kind of feel.
Yeah, I definitely had a wannabe Predator. I will give it, out of 10 stars, I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars, but 2 of those stars were because of Vernon Wells.
Okay, so wait, are we doing stinkometer scores? Because I don't think you've ever done stinkometer scores.
I've never. I do not know. I'm not familiar. Please tell me.
So for Indie Film Cafe, we have a thing called a stinkometer, and I believe our plan is to bring it back in next season for all of 31 days of indie horror. So this could be 31 days. I have to like add up all the scores and all that fun stuff. But you get 3 people generally.
Right.
And so you'd have 3 people giving a score. The stinkometer score is 1 to 10, 10 being stinky, 1 being good.
So. Okay, so one is so it's reversed. 1 is smelling like roses, and 10 is smelling like Rosie O'Donnell.
And you can give it a 0.5. I
can give it a 0.5 though. Okay, you know what? I'll even say that if that's the case, as far as the stinkometer goes, I'm feeling generous. I'll give it a 3.
Oh, 3? Wait, or do you mean 8 or 7 or something?
Oh no, you're right. You're right. It says 7. I'm sorry, I got reversed. Yeah, I give it a 7.
Okay.
It's not quite. It's not quite putrid, but it's close.
Okay, I would give it a 7.5. It's not the greatest, but it's not like I've seen way worse. And trust me,
right? Exactly.
If you get part of Indie Film Cafe, you will see a lot worse. Especially if you get a part of Paul's, stuff. Paul knows bad, stinky movies, and this isn't very stinky. It's just
it's not very stinky. It's a movie. That's what I can call it. It's a movie.
It's a movie. There you go. It's the best way to describe it. It's a movie. Mm-hmm. It exists.
The way I can describe it is the way I had. What was it? There was a sound designer that I had worked with once, and he had asked. This was before I was directing, and he had asked some stuff that I had done, and I lent him a copy of Bloodletting. And after he watched it, he said, "Man, you guys did it. You made a movie." And that's it. It's like right there. It's like, okay, well, that pretty much tells me you fucking hated it. That's great. So,
I mean, sometimes indie films is not people's things.
Right.
I was talking to a girl who, I told her what I was watching. She was like, "Give me something that I can watch." Like tell me something I can watch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because some people just aren't into bad, stinky indie movies.
Exactly.
And everything. And it's not everybody's taste, but the people that are, they truly love this stuff.
Right. Exactly.
And this would be something that I could recommend to somebody who's really into sci-fi, wants to see Richard Hatch, wants to see Vernon Wells, and wants to see sort of a Predator ripoff in a way. That's sort of fun.
A $3 Predator ripoff.
Exactly. So there you go. That's our review for it. So thank you so much for coming on and checking, and everybody checking this out. Do you have a website or anything? How do people?
I can be reached through Facebook. I have a personal Facebook under James L. Edwards. I also have Facebooks under our 3 movies. Actually, as luck would have it, they're right here. Let's see. Her name was Krista. Brimstone Incorporated with Jonathan Moody co-wrote one of the stories on, and our new film Trivial, which goes into production next month.
Nice.
So you can catch me on there.
You
I
and
also
I,
have an Instagram, but I rarely use it. So,
you and I will be busy next month. So that's awesome. Very happy. Well, thank you so much. Please stick around. But everybody else, thank you guys for checking this out. Join me tomorrow, and then the next day will be the last day of 31 Days of Indie Horror. So we're, we're getting this done. So thank you so much, everybody, for checking this out, and hope you guys enjoyed it. Bye.